The Firth of Clyde. It's one of the largest estuaries in all of Scotland, and is also the mouth of the River Clyde, which starts just south of Elvenfoot in the Lowther Hills, weaving its way through South Lanarkshire before turfing its way straight through the heart of Glasgow. All in all, it's one of the nicest parts of the Scottish Central Belt, with several sea lochs such as Loch Long and the Gairloch, some fairly pleasant beaches, I guess, and stunning views of hills sticking out from the likes of the Cowal Peninsula, the Isle of Bute, and if you're willing to travel down the coast a bit more, the Isle of Arran. Oh hey, speaking of the Cowal.
Yeah, so it's quite a big peninsula, so naturally there's going to be quite a few settlements on it. The largest of these settlements is Dunoon, a town of about 7,500 people located on the east coast of the peninsula. Now Dunoon is only located about 40 kilometers west of Glasgow, or 25 miles for you feckless heathens who use the imperial system. Says the American. So you imagine that quite a lot of people would probably want to travel between the two. It's just that the Firth of Clyde kind of complicates things. And that's where Caledonian MacBrayne comes in. Yeah, so there's two ferry crosses between Dunoon and Gourock. If you're traveling between Gourock and Dunoon, you can either opt for Western ferries, which will take you from McInroy's Point, Hunter's Quay, which are located on the outskirts of both towns, or you can opt for Caledonian MacBrayne, which will take you from right outside Gourock station right into the heart of Dunoon. Now, surely based solely on the grounds that Caledonian MacBrayne goes right from town centre to town centre, meanwhile Hunter's ferries only do outskirts to outskirts, you'd think that CalMac are better, wouldn't you? Yeah, I wondered that as well, so I'm going to be trying both out to see whether that's the case or not. I'm first going to be getting CalMac from here at Gourock Station across to Dunoon. I'll give a review, and then I will walk up to Hunter's Quay and try out Western ferries back down to McInroy's Point. Alright, let's go. Right-ho then, there is the ferry terminal, right next to the station platform. Okay, made it just in time, 3 minutes until ferry actually leaves. Hiya. How are we doing? Alright, thanks yourself. And we're off.
Alright, currently on the ferry across to Dunoon now. The seats downstairs looked a lot more comfier than the ones upstairs, so I decided to just stay down here. I think maybe when we're like halfway across, I'll maybe nip upstairs, see what it's like upstairs, but for the most part, I'm not particularly fast. But yeah, I'm going to be timing these to see how long it takes to get from Kempook Point in Gourock across to Dunoon Castle Gardens and back. Start walking through Kempook Point at 10:40, so I guess as soon as I arrive at Castle Gardens in Dunoon, then I'll see what the time is, and I'll be able to work out roughly how long it took for me to get from there across the Clyde to Dunoon. But yeah, so far this is actually very pleasant. These seats are incredibly comfy, which is nice. I wonder if they're going to do ticket checks at all, because, I got on and they didn't even ask about my tickets. It's like, I went to the length of printing out my ticket for nothing. Like, God's sake. Why the hell have I sat on, like, the really naff side where you can only really just see, like, Gourock and that? Like, the other side, you can literally see tons of rolling hills and that, and instead I decided to sit over here, because of course I did. Should have realistically thought about that before sitting here, but oh well. Okay, we're about halfway across now, so I'm gonna move upstairs and see what it's like quickly. Okay, this is very cool. I'm liking being back here. Look at how insane this scenery is, by the way. Like, I sometimes forget how stunning Scotland is, and I've lived here all my life. Yeah, okay, seats aside, the upstairs is way better, and I was naive and foolish forever thinking that the downstairs would be better. With that being said, that the weather's actually extremely pleasant today. I can't imagine if I was doing this, say, this time 3 months ago, I'd have particularly enjoyed it. And I suppose, if it's raining or whatever, sitting upstairs is also probably not going to be particularly nice either. Here we are, we're coming into Dunoon now, hallelujah. Right, thank you very much, sir. Have a great day. Well, that was a very pleasant experience, I must say. Right, there's the castle up there, so just need to get up these steps. This should be easy. Right, okay, so it's bang on 11:15 now, actually. This is practically the highest point in all of Dunoon, so I'm gonna call it here. Jesus Christ, this is lovely. Right, okay, so I think Dunoon might be my single favourite place in the entire goddamn world now. I mean, I've never left the UK before, so I'm not exactly one to speak. But out of all the places I have been in the UK, this is by far my favourite place I've ever seen. But yeah, what are my thoughts on the CalMac ferry over? Honestly, I really liked it. Out of the 3 ferries that I've been on in my life, MV Loch Shira from Largs to Millport and back, Argyll Flower, the one I was just on, and whichever one of the ferries I had from North Shields to South Shields on the Shields ferry back in December, I feel like this is the ferry ride that I've enjoyed the most. I'm not going to go particularly in depth though, as I'm going to be doing a sort of more broad review of the CalMac ferry, at least in comparison to the Western Ferries ferry. Great English there. Once I've actually tried the Western Ferries ferry. So, yeah, I'm gonna go enjoy Dunoon for the next, 2 hours, because it looks fucking amazing here. And then I'll come back here in about 2 hours time and start walking along to Hunter's Quay, just so, you know, I'm going to the same start and end points. Bro, I love Dunoon so much. I'm literally just stood on the remains of a castle right now, just looking out on the town. It is so lovely. Hold on. The views from here are actually insane. What the f? This has to be possibly one of my single favorite places I've ever been. Well, I mean, it's lovely for the most part, and then you see an Opter solo. That kind of kills the mood a bit. Can I also, sorry, am I also able to get a 2-journey child ticket for the ferries? Cheers. You don't have it? Oh, alright. That's fine, don't worry. Hiya, can I just check, am I able to get a child 2-journey tickets for the ferry?
You don't get tickets, you get the kiosk.
The kiosk?
Yes.
Alright. Cheers. Hiya, am I able to get a child 2-journey ticket for the ferry, please? Alright, cheers. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Okay, so it's just turned to 2:11, so I'm going to start walking along to the Western Ferries terminal now. I've had an incredibly pleasant 3 hours here, but yeah, supposedly the walk from here to Hunter's Quay is going to be about 40 minutes, so I can probably do it in about half an hour if I don't dawdle too much, which I probably won't. I kind of want to get home. I've been up since about 3:30 this morning, but yeah, it's not exactly looking good for Western on the time front. So afternoon peak for Western Ferries actually starts relatively early. I think it's actually like 2 o'clock, and it's currently about 2:20 at the moment. So theoretically, I think it should be going up to every 15 minutes now as opposed to every 20, which means less of a wait, hopefully. So I probably should have maybe said this a bit earlier, but the main thing with Western Ferries is that it is also a car ferry, unlike the Caledonian MacBrayne service, which is a passenger-only ferry. So yeah, if you're having to drive between Dunoon and Gourock, then you kind of have no choice but to get Western Ferries, unless you want to use Gourock train station as a parking ride, get CalMac across, and then rely on the buses, which there aren't many of. I suppose that probably explains why the terminals are so far out for Western, is because they don't exactly need to worry about being close to the town centre if their main demographic is the car drivers who can't get CalMac. And there's the 240 journey. So if I had actually been able to get the Western Ferry tickets at the co-op, had they not sold out, I probably would have been on that ferry. Damn it. Oh well, I can afford to wait 15 minutes, it's no bother. Okay, I have arrived here a grand total of 12 minutes before the next ferry is meant to leave, so hiya. Oh, alright. Cheers. Guess I'm just waiting here now. Our vessel crosses Sound of Soy. I think it's soy anyway, it might be soy, but I'm fairly certain it's soy. Right, just hit 3 o'clock again. Hallelujah. Yeah, I don't think I realised how car-centric
Welcome aboard Western Ferries.
Hello to you too. Yeah, I don't think I realised how car-centric Western actually are, because like, for outside seating, it's literally just this bench and an identical bench on the other side. So, yeah, you have to kind of just stay up here, or there's the tiniest amount of indoor seating inside. I really like this bit of the ferry, the sort of downstairs bit you can stand at. Anyway, let's go review the interior. These are literally just glorified bus seats. I suppose arguably so were the ones on CalMac, but at the same time, at least those had good padding. These do not. Words cannot describe how happy I am that they actually have hand sanitizer aboard this. When I was trying to film the thing about CalMac on top of Dunoon Castle, I had a seagull on my hands, so yeah. This is very pleasant. I've also just not been able to like wash my hands properly since that happened. I literally just wiped it off on some wet grass and that did the trick, but at the same time, still not exactly the most pleasant feeling ever. Yeah, all things considered, the interior on this is actually really quite pleasant, so I'm really liking it. CalMac had better seats, however, the interior on here is just nicer overall if you ask me. I found this leaflet saying next to hand sanitizing when I got on. It's funny seeing how much longer it is between Gourock and Dunoon by car compared to by ferry. Okay, now I've just got to walk all the way up there, hallelujah. Alright, thank you very much, have a great day. So yeah, despite the fact that I have a Young Scot card and thus qualify for free bus travel, I've decided to make this about as fair as I possibly can. I'm going to take the stance of someone who only wants to pay for the ferry and
doesn't want to then have to shell out money to get the bus. Even though if I just got the 480 up to Hunter's Quay from Dunoon Ferry Terminal and then I just waited like 15 minutes at the stop there for a 901 up to Guruk Station, I could probably, I don't know, like half the time. But you know, God forbid I make my life easier for myself. Well, trust my luck. Of course my battery dies like right in the middle of filming something. Anyway, what did I think of Western Ferries? I honestly really like them as well, but it's very clear that they're orientated way less to pedestrian passengers and way more to car passengers. But even though it's mainly meant to be, you know, a car ferry, it's still pretty good for passengers. Not exactly the greatest experience ever, but at the same time, it is still pretty alright considering you're not going to be on it for more than about 20 minutes tops. So that's all very well then. But which of the two ferry operators is actually the best? Well, I thought the best way of going about this would be to nitpick all the main factors with both ferries, and then just review those factors for each ferry operator on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. I'll be going off of prices, how long it took to get from Kempick Point to Dunoon Castle and back, bit biased towards CalMac, but we bought, and overall customer satisfaction rate, so basically just stuff like how friendly were staff, was the interior of the ferry nice, did it wobble around much, stuff like that basically. Right, let's just get into that now then, shall we? For the purposes of this video, I actually had to buy two different types of ferry tickets. A Caledonian MacBrayne adult single ticket from Guruk to Dunoon, as well as a Western Ferries Child 2 journey ticket. I'll elaborate on that in a second. Now, when I filmed this video, I was still only 15 years old, meaning that I was still eligible for child tickets on both ferries. However, the problem is, with Caledonian MacBrayne, you can't book child tickets online without booking an accompanying adult ticket, and I doubt most people are going to see a broad-shouldered, 190cm tall, 105kg bloke and think, yeah, that guy's under the age of consent. An adult single ticket with CalMac costs £6.40, which undercuts Western Ferries, who charge £6.60 for their adult single ticket. On the contrary though, if we have a look at return fares, we can see that Caledonian MacBrayne charged £12.80, or the price of two adult singles, just for an adult return between Guruk and Dunoon. Compare that to Western, who only charge £7.90 for their adult 2 journey ticket, and you'd think that getting Western as opposed to CalMac would be a no-brainer price-wise, right? Well, here's the thing. Booking e-tickets on the CalMac website is actually fairly simple. All you really need to do is just select your ferry terminals, date of travel, passenger details, pay, and then you should be sent an email with e-tickets in a couple minutes. Try to book online with Western, and you're gonna have to pay an extra £4.20 for postage, since Western don't actually do e-tickets. Now, if you don't have wads of cash burning a hole in your pocket, then your best bet is to probably just go to one of Western Ferry's local ticket agents, which tends to just be a local co-op or something. Now, the problem with this system is that it can sort of just lead to you going on a wild goose chase just to get your tickets. Like, take me for example, I had to go to 3 separate supermarkets just to get my ferry tickets back across to Guruk. So overall, CalMac are better for the convenience factor. However, if you want cheaper tickets, then just go for Western. I'm gonna give 4 stars to Western Ferries on this one, and 3 stars to Caledonian MacBrayne. Why did I bother with this one again? Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what to use for B-roll here, so if there's not a ton of cohesion between the video and the audio, then that's why. I personally found both ferry experiences to be pretty positive all around, so trying to pick one over the other is much easier said than done. Starting off with CalMac, the first thing that I noticed when getting the ferry across from Guruk was that all the staff were incredibly friendly. Both the employee who welcomed passengers onto the ferry, as well as the employee doing ticket checks, both asked how I was doing, which was incredibly welcoming. And MV Argyle Flyer is just a very nice ferry overall. It definitely swayed around a bit more than I was expecting, and the upstairs seating is dire. But at the same time, the upstairs seating bit still gives really good vantage points of the Firth of Clyde, and the downstairs seating bit is sublimely comfortable. Western weren't half bad either, especially considering that I was a pedestrian passenger traveling on a predominantly car-centric ferry. Actually trying to buy the ferry tickets was certainly a pain in the backside. However, once I finally did manage to obtain them after about like 20 minutes of searching for a supermarket that had them, I found it to be a very enjoyable ferry experience. Once again, staff were incredibly friendly, definitely not as friendly as with CalMac, but at the same time that's a very high bar to clear. And me personally, I think MV Sound of Soy actually sails a lot smoother than MV Argyle Flyer. I found that the seats on Sound of Soy were a lot less comfortable than the ones on Argyle Flyer, especially the ones outside. Those are not for the faint of heart. But despite that, I honestly think I prefer the interior on Sound of Soy compared to the one on Argyle Flyer. I don't know if it's just the warmer color scheme or what,
what, but I would honestly say that seats aside, Western's interior game's a lot better than CalMac's, at least between Gurk and Dunoon. So since in regards to customer experience, I would personally say that CalMac and Western are relatively on par with one another, I would say both are deserving of getting 4 stars.
And that is done with the review. As we can see, Western Ferries averaged out at a score of 6.7 out of 10. Meanwhile, Caledonian MacBrayne got a score of roughly 7.3 out of 10. So, in my opinion, they are better. However, the two are extremely interchangeable.
My personal takeaway is that Western ferries are better on the price front. However, if you're getting the train in from Glasgow and you want a more direct ferry, then it feels pretty stupid to not get CalMac, considering that they literally depart from right outside the train station. But alas, that's all for this video. I'm trying out some new stuff again, so if you guys would like to see me do more rankings like these and have any ideas, or you just wish to cast eternal damnation upon me, then by all means feel free to leave a comment down below. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys with a clip of me having a fit over a hybrid bus. Thank you all for watching. I've been Mortimer Durkin, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Take care.
What the fuck? I had a bit of a moment of Parley McGill's of a 26 plate Sataro now.